Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about Mars in the 11th house as we continue through our encyclopedia series here. The 11th house has a lot to do with hopes and wishes, networking, friendships. These are often what you'll hear, like if you just go Google the 11th house. But what's often not talked about with the 11th house is that this is also the house of your hopes and your wishes and your material gains. So, a common misnomer that I see is that the second house has to do with money. And it does, but it has to do with like assets and savings and things like that. The 11th house and the power that lies within the 11th house is actually how we get more gains, though, and how we achieve our real dreams and our goals. The 11th house also rules over like benefactors, older siblings, uncles, and things like that. This house is called an Upachaya house, which means that it improves with age. So over time, the conditions within this house are going to improve. Now, we've already been talking about Mars. Mars is the planet of action, anger, sexuality. Think of Mars like our hunger for something, like when you're hungry or you're thirsty, and the things that causes in you to want to go do, right? It makes when you're hungry or thirsty, you want to change that. You want to go and get something that's going to quench your thirst, right? And so that's what Mars has a lot to do with, and that's why it's associated with like literal muscle and like taking action. So when we see it in the 11th house, it's an interesting place to see it. These people that have this natally in their charts are real movers and shakers, right? Mars is action, and we're talking about community. So these people are really active in the community. A lot of times they will join a lot of groups and clubs and different things like that. And they can actually become a really important figure within these groups pretty easily because Mars is very motivated to make connections in this house. So they can be almost like a bit of a forceful friend. We're going to talk about friendship a little bit more as I keep going here. They can be a little bit like force themselves sometimes into situations, but they also are really great at sort of like advocacy. Wanting to help plan or lead events and collaborations and things like that. They can be really good at like rallying their friends to a cause or like, come on, guys, let's go. We're going to go on this trip together. Let's plan it out. It's like that's very Mars in the 11th house. And because of, maybe in part because of that role, they often become people that have sort of like a fan base almost, like people that have groups of people that sort of follow them or are interested in them and what they're doing, and are influenced by them. I would really associate this placement with like a really powerful influencer. Okay. Because remember also that the 11th house rules the internet. So this could even mean online. And this also may be that they're joining groups online too. Don't limit this to just like in person because the 11th house rules all sorts of crazy inventions that we've had in the course of humanity, including the internet. So they could be also active online, like taking classes online, finding groups online to be a part of, and so on and so forth. But as I was saying, they are really good at sort of influencing other people as well. A couple of people that I did find with this placement were Oprah and Taylor Swift, which I think are really good examples of this. Both of those people have like really strong fan bases. That's kind of like one of the things that they're known for, right? Is like having these groups of people that are really rallying for them. Like I think they call them the Swifties, literally, right? Like people that are really willing to like follow their lead, basically. Like I'm pretty sure if Taylor Swift came out and said, "All right, all my Swifties, go unfollow so and so," probably people would do it. And so this is the influence and power that this placement can have. Um, as well. So their strongest, remember we said that Mars is like our hunger and our thirst for something. So their thirst and their hunger is for social and economic reasons. So they like to meet like high ranking people, or they're really good at sort of like climbing the social ladder. Like I could definitely also see like a socialite or something with a placement like this, or maybe just somebody that is really good at climbing the ladder at work or really good at kind of standing out in the PTA meetings. You get what I mean? These are the general things that I see about them. They're very forceful and dynamic about making friends and joining groups and kind of expanding their network. So they can be very proactive at like carving out networks. So this is a really good quality that they have, obviously. And in fact, as honestly, overall, this placement is pretty good. These people are more likely than a lot of placements to achieve the goals and dreams that they have in life because they're going to be really motivated to do so with this. But given that they have this quality of being able to like carve out new networks on their own, I would say that they could also be really good at PR for that reason. Let's talk a little bit more about friendships. These people really want active friends. They want people that they can go explore the world with. So they often have a lot of friends, and the friends that they have, they like to go on trips with, or they like to go out. Like, these are the type of people that are going to join like a kayaking club or something. Do you know what I mean? Not that every single person with this placement like kayaking, but this is just an example of what I'm talking about. And so, as I said, they're often very influential in their friendship group. They have a very much like a leader vibe, and like they are able to control, almost like they have control over an army. They often are the ones that take over to organize like events. This is kind of similar to what we were talking about, inspiring and getting people excited to get together. Very common with them. Another thing that comes up with them a lot is competitiveness, and they will often find that people are competitive with them. Friends are often in a more like competitive space with them. I will say that I have also noticed that this placement, they themselves actually can sort of be like competitive also, especially if that person is Martian in nature. So they may be extra competitive with somebody that seems very motivated and driven and successful, or they may feel extra competitive with somebody that they deem to be like sexually attractive, because all of these things are like Mars in nature. So they may feel more threatened by those kind of people if Mars is in like a debilitated position. So as we go through these, obviously you'll see that like some are kind of like high and low here. So there's always like low and high octaves to all of these positions. You're more likely to see negative effects on the low octave, as they say, if Mars is maybe debilitated here, meaning that it's like in Libra, or let's say it's in a hard aspect or something like that. So it's not really a black and white, like this or that. It's more kind of like a varying level that we see. But all these people that I have seen with this placement do have friends that are really competitive with them. And I think that most of them would agree with that, to be honest. So they are way more likely to have fights with friends, for sure. I've seen this position have like big friend breakups even. I've even seen people have like really big friend breakups with this position. So, excuse me. So while a lot of people go through a lot of drama in their relationships, these people have a lot of drama like in their friendships. And so they'll have like makeups and breakups with people a lot, or blow ups, or that sort of thing happens in their friend group for sure, a lot more than other people. But with all of that said, I would say that this position is more likely to win over their enemies than a lot of other positions, because Mars is pretty strong here in the 11th house. So unless it's very debilitated, I feel pretty confident that this position is most likely to kind of like quote unquote win when it comes to a battle against somebody. If it is debilitated, I think they still will win, but they may find that those people come back and get them later. So, and that might not be people even. This could be like, well, we're about to talk about money in a second. So let's say that they were trying to, that they were motivated to do what they had to do to get money out of a situation. Maybe they had to cross some lines to do that. If this position, they'll succeed in doing it. But if this position is debilitated, they may have like the government come after them later or something like that. Hopefully that makes sense. Speaking of money, though, these people usually do get really great gains in their life because, like I said, the 11th house is the house of our gains. Do not forget this. It's really easy to get caught up in the second house because the second house does represent like our savings and our assets and stuff like that, like I said earlier. But if you're looking at like, how do I make more money now? The 11th house is where you need to go. And so to have Mars here, I do feel a lot of these people will get those gains, but they will work for it. This isn't like if Venus was here or Jupiter, which are like soft benefics, more receptive. Mars is a warrior. He goes out and fights for what he wants. So these people will fight for it, honestly. And that whether that's through their own business ideas or whether that's through just kind of being a social climber and like meeting the right people. There's an action. If you have this position, you need to take action in order to see the success that you're looking for. I have a feeling you probably will want to take action having Mars in this position, but do know that you will need to do that. But like I said, I think most of these people will do that because there's a strong motivation with that this placement has to achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. So these people often will like go out of their own way to accomplish that. I've noticed that this placement has sort of this vibe in them of kind of like restlessness. Like so I think that in that restlessness, they often will think of like new ideas of something they could try. And because it's Mars, they're likely going to do it. Like they're going to actually try it and take some sort of action on it. We don't know that they'll have follow through. This is not about follow through. We got to look elsewhere for that. Mars is not necessarily about follow through, but they probably will try it. And given both of these factors of, you know, building these crazy social networks and meeting the right people alongside, right? Like this restless desire to pursue their dreams and therefore thinking of ideas and trying them. The combination of these things, these people usually do get a lot of success for sure. So I find that people with this position do make money for sure. With that said, I also find they spend a lot of money. So keep that in mind. Mars likes to make money, but he also wants to spend it. Okay. Here in the 11th house, they want to live out their dream. They want to experience it actively. So they're not necessarily in the mindset of, I'm going to get a bunch of money to save it. They're kind of more in the mindset of like, I'm going to get a bunch of money so that I can explore the world, so that I can have this great business, so that you fill in the blank. Right. So they're not too concerned about hanging on to the money that they make. And they often will overspend it. This position is known to have a lot of debt, for example, is honestly something I've seen come up. But in particular, again, we have to look at the condition of the planet. If the planet is debilitated or has hard aspects to it or something, then obviously that's more likely. But the desire is probably there for most people that have this placement, to be honest. If this also is a very badly aspected planet or someone's kind of living in their low octave energy, then this could also represent somebody who will do whatever it takes to get what they want, and they don't really care how it affects anybody else. They're not interested in helping people. They're interested in getting what they want, period. That can happen if people are in a lower mindset, or I would say if they have bad aspects in their chart, actually. But now remember also that the 11th house is the opposite house of the 5th house, right? And the 5th house has to do with children. So since it's facing the 5th, this is a tip you can use elsewhere in astrology, is whatever the opposite house always are going to wing in tandem and in hand with the house that we're talking about. So if you have something going through the 11th, your 5th house is also being aspected here, even if you don't have anything in the 5th house. So if people have Mars in their 11th house, this could describe their children, actually. This could describe their children maybe being very active or a little pushy or competitive. I could see athletics here as well, like maybe their kid's athletic or something like that. That actually kind of reminds me of this position generally. Like I feel like Mars in the 11th house is a lot more likely to be like patriotic or like have a team. I'm going to cheer for my team. We're all on a team together. Like it is kind of giving like athletics or sports. Like I could see that being a factor if there are other supporting factors for such a thing in the chart. But this could also mean having a tense relationship with your kids if, again, it's badly aspected, or there are other factors. So this could mean having like fights with them, or tension about them as a subject. Also possible, again, depending upon all the factors of the chart here. So don't take it too hard. Now we talked about how this also rules like benefactors, older siblings, uncles. In some cases where Mars is really debilitated here, these people don't have any older siblings, or it could also mean that they have issues with their older siblings or tension with them or fighting with them or something like that, or any of these figures, right? Like benefactors and uncles as well. Or it could describe those people in your life, just like the previous one, just like the kids, right? Like maybe you have somebody who comes into your life that really helps you out, and they're very like dynamic, they're very active, they're motivating, they're inspiring, they really change your life, but they're also possibly, there's maybe also some tension with this person or a little sense of like argument between you guys at times or something like that. Like I could see that really playing out this way. Again, depending on the factors as far as details. Obviously this is always a general, if you guys email me, I can maybe help you out individually, but I would say generally that's what you're looking at here. This is kind of a random thing that I've noticed, but I have also noticed that if this position is very debilitated, then it can also mean having kind of like being drawn towards or having like compulsions towards things that are not very good for you, like alcohol, smoking, eating really bad food, like that kind of stuff. These people can be really driven to it, or they may have had a mother that was. just because of derivative astrology, which I'll get into in a different video. But this can mean that as well. Again, if you're low octave or you're not in your best energy, or let's say if you have a debilitated planet, right? That doesn't mean it's you have to be this, you're sentenced forever to, you're doomed. But that's also something I have noticed with this placement. One of the biggest things I wanted to leave off on about this placement that stands out the most to me is they have this very strong sort of political advocacy vibes to them. So a lot of politicians have this placement, actually. That's very common. This placement is very driven towards bettering the overall community in whatever way they think that is, right? Obviously, that can vary. But they are very driven to make, I wouldn't say the world a better place. I would say society. Let's say society a better place, because they care more about the people. They care more about like the group, the town, you know, the tribe, whatever. Like they care. That's what they care about. They care about sort of the social construct more than anything. And in fact, a lot of things that are ruled by the 11th house are things that are connected to each other, but don't have any singular sort of leading factor. So like, for example, the stock market is ruled by the 11th house because it involves different, there's a lot of, but no, there's no like stock market. There's like, I am the lead stock, I rule all of stock market. That's not a thing, right? Like, and the internet's another example, right? You think about the web of the internet. That's exactly how I envision actually the 11th house, where it's like everything is kind of like interconnected, but there's not really like a strong, clear leading force. Aquarius is about everyone kind of being at equal level, not having one person that's like fully in charge. And that doesn't mean that people that are Aquariuses or have heavy Aquarius energy don't believe in leadership here, but it does mean that if they are into leadership, then they think the leader should be like amongst the people, if that makes sense. I'm thinking of a picture I saw a long time ago where it's like, one was a leader where he's like whipping the people into shape, and then the other one's like he's down there with them, like actually trying to build the bricks and do the stuff. So I would say that they have more like that mentality, like they would want to be a part of whatever that is. So a couple of examples of people also that have this in this context, have this placement within this context here, are Nelson Mandela and Fidel Castro. So in both of those cases, right, they started out as rebel groups who wanted to initiate social changes, and they were eventually able to fight their way to pretty serious prominence, right? So that's a lot of how I envision this placement, actually. Whether or not they are true like Fidel Castro, I'm not saying that like that. Like we talked about, Taylor Swift also has this position, so there's some variance. It depends a lot on the sign that it's in, right? And things like that, to see like specific details. But I would say that overall, like even in the case of Oprah and Taylor Swift, they seem to care a lot too about like social justice, at least as far as, again, obviously within the context of what they think that is defined as. I'm not saying that we all have to agree with them politically, but within the construct of what they thought, they seem to actually really feel pretty strongly about social change and, you know, politics. Maybe politics isn't the right word there when it comes to like Taylor Swift. Well, I guess Taylor Swift did comment a lot on politics though, didn't she? So maybe it's true even in that case now that I think about it. But I would also say that another thing that has come up in my research on this position is that it can be a really good placement for like urban planning, which I could definitely see because Mars is said to be like the engineer or the surgeon. And so I can see this position also doing well with like planning things that are going to affect an overall group, whether that's like party planning or like planning a concert or planning a city. I can see that in all of these cases. So hopefully this gives you guys some idea about this placement. This is a pretty high level, but always you guys can message me for more specifics. And I'll be back with another video soon on Mars in the 10th.